It's Friday, May 22nd, 2026. Welcome to episode 203 of the Alameda Postcast, an audio service of the Alameda Post. I'm your host, Scott Peeler. In this edition of the Postcast, City Council makes some changes. Our representatives push for answers on the stalled VA project. Alameda reports a reduction in homelessness. A new curriculum for AUSD. The Naval Air Museum asks for your help. Events for the weekend, including Memorial Day at the USS Hornet. These stories and more on this episode of the Alameda Postcast. Our top story. On Tuesday, City Council unanimously approved significant updates to the city's two-decade-old inclusionary housing ordinance. Interim Planning, Building, and Transportation Co-Director Abby Thorne-Lyman presented proposed updates, opening a discussion over rules that have been largely unchanged since 2004. Since that time, the Bay Area housing market has transformed from a pre-recession boom to a competitive, supply-constrained environment in which median rents have surged, creating an affordability crisis for lower-income workers. Thorne-Lyman noted that Alameda has a regional housing needs allocation target of more than 5,300 housing units by the year 2031. Yet the city has produced less than a tenth of that during the first 2.5 years of the current housing cycle. That slowdown mirrors a statewide trend. Proposed updates would eliminate moderate-income rental housing requirements in favor of increasing low and very low-income units. As noted previously on the Postcast, moderate-income units tend to remain unoccupied because their rental costs are comparable to market rates, and the market rate units involve less bureaucracy. Currently, all projects with more than 4 units must provide 4% very low, 4% low, and 7% moderate rate units. The update will allow developers to instead choose one of 4 options: 15% low-income units, or a combination of 5% very low and 5% low, or 8% very low, or an economically equivalent option. Similar changes were suggested for ownership housing opportunities, this time with a move away from very low income requirements for ownership. Findings have shown that very low income households generally cannot afford down payments. A potentially far-reaching change would extend the required affordability period for rental units from 55 to 99 years. Thorne-Lyman flagged this as urgent, noting that affordable units across the Bay Area are quietly aging out of their income-restricted periods, effectively removing them from affordable housing stock. Sean Murphy of Pacific Development said the ordinance changes are critical to allowing Pacific Development to move forward this summer with the Foundry project, a 260-unit development that would complete the Alameda Marina Master Plan's 801-unit northern waterfront build-out. Council members broadly supported the proposed revisions, describing them as important for addressing the city's housing shortage, improving flexibility for developers, and aligning affordable housing requirements with current market conditions. Vice Mayor Michelle Pryor said the fact that a developer was prepared to move forward with a major project because of the ordinance revision spoke volumes. Council approved the updates unanimously. In other business, Council unanimously approved an update to the municipal parking code, which would authorize overnight closure, midnight to 6 a.m., of the Civic Center parking structure to address concerns of vandalism and camping. Council also reviewed HR Director Noel White's annual workforce vacancy and retention report. As noted in last week's episode, the police vacancy rate remains a concern, but there were bright spots in other areas, notably the city seeing 30 internal promotions and a hiring timeline that is roughly 50 days faster than comparable agencies in other municipalities. Finally, Council unanimously approved a proposed technology disruption policy for handling remote participation failures during City Council meetings. Under the policy, the mayor or city clerk must announce disruptions, call a recess, and allow staff up to 1 hour to restore service before Council decides whether to adjourn or continue the meeting. Full story in Karen Jensen's article at alamedapost.com/news. This Sunday, you've got a chance to get to know Karen a little better. She joins me as my guest on the Alameda Connection. Tune in Sunday morning at 8 on KCSM HD2 or streaming from kcsm.org as we discuss dancing, reporting, and her book, The Strength of Water, an Asian American coming-of-age memoir. Speaking of the Alameda Connection, on last week's episode with Base Reuse Director Abby Thorne-Lyman, we discussed the ongoing is it or isn't it situation with the proposed VA facility on Alameda Point. Now, Congresswoman Lateefah Simon has announced that she, along with Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi and Congressman Kevin Mullen, had successfully included a request to the Department of Veterans Affairs in the fiscal year 2027 Military Construction, Veterans Affairs, and Related Agencies Appropriations Bill. That request requires the VA to produce a report explaining if and why the Alameda Point community-based outpatient clinic and columbarium project has allegedly been canceled. The bill passed the House of Representatives by a vote of 400 to 15 and is now headed to the Senate for a vote. If it passes, which seems likely, the VA would need to report within 60 days and clarify why the project was being pulled. The report would also have to include financial analysis of the $395 million that had been committed to the project. On August 28th of last year, Simon's office had received a congressional notification announcing the decision to cancel the construction of the VA health clinic in Columbarium. The city of Alameda, however, was not so informed. To this date, the city has not received any formal notification from the VA. So as far as the city is concerned, the project is not canceled. On both the Alameda Connection and in an email to the Alameda Post, Thorne Lyman noted that the project can only officially be terminated if the VA notifies the Navy, and that has not happened. On Monday, Mayor Ashcraft gave a tour of Alameda Point to district directors for Senators Schiff and Padilla. She told the Post that they discussed a number of issues, including the clinic in Columbarium. She told the Post, quote, "We were talking about what a calm, peaceful place this is for that chosen purpose, and we're not turning our backs on our veterans," end quote. The mayor will be in Washington, D.C. next month with the Alameda County Transportation Commission to lobby for funding for projects and programs. She continued, quote, "While I'm there, our federal lobbyist is scheduling meetings with me to discuss the VA project and what we can do about it," end quote. Full details, including a map of the proposed project site, in Gene Chen's article at alamedapost.com/news. In what appears to be a bit of good news, the number of unhoused individuals in Alameda has decreased by 46.8% since 2024, according to the latest point-in-time count conducted on January 22nd. Every 2 years, communities across the country conduct counts of individuals experiencing both sheltered homelessness, which means temporary housing, and unsheltered homelessness, that is, street, cars, or in tents. The count is federally mandated by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. According to recently released data from Alameda County, the county saw an 18% drop in unsheltered homelessness and 13% overall reduction in homelessness countywide. For the city of Alameda, the 46.8% decrease especially significant. Mayor Ashcraft acknowledged the work of the city staff and the city's partners, including, but not limited to, the Warming Shelter and Dignity Village. Full story at alamedapost.com/news. At its meeting on Tuesday, May 12th, Alameda Unified School District Board of Education heard staff's recommendation for the new English Language Arts curriculum starting with the 2026-2027 school year. After more than a year of research and collaboration that included the piloting of 3 different ELA curricula, AUSD staff recommended that the board adopt Benchmark, developed by the Benchmark Education Company. During public comment and board discussion, there was some concerns raised about the lack of complete novels included in the curriculum, but AUSD staff responded that they would proactively include the teaching of full novels. The total cost to implement the curriculum over the next 3 years estimated to be approximately $1.4 million. Full story, including additional AUSD board business, in Ken Durr's article at alamedapost.com/news. The Alameda Naval Air Museum, located in Historic Building 77 at 2151 Ferry Point, will host a free open house for Alameda residents Saturday, May 23rd from 1 to 3. The event is a call for new community leadership to help carry the museum's legacy forward. As a press release noted, quote, "The museum now faces a critical inflection point. An aging all-volunteer board and the high cost of maintaining a large historic building have brought the organizations to a crossroads. Without new community leadership, the museum's collection, decades of artifacts, records, and irreplaceable objects, faces an uncertain future," end quote. Details at alamedapost.com/Alameda-Life. While you're there, check out Amanda Laird's weekly All Around Alameda column. Saturday, join Alameda Walks and historian Dennis Evanosky on the Gold Coast to learn how Franklin Park evolved from a private retreat to a public space. Also on Saturday, the Retro Revival Benefit Concert at Webster Park. Monday, commemorate Memorial Day aboard the USS Hornet. Active and retired military enjoy free admission all day. On Wednesday, it's a new league year at the Pacific Pinball Museum. Also on Wednesday, a new book club at Books Inc. Passages, the Words That Move Us, which invites participants to share passages from any genre. Details on these events and all around Alameda at alamedapost.com/Alameda-Life. As I mentioned last week, Rocket Ryu is set to reopen on Saturday. Gene Kahane has the scoop, also at alamedapost.com/Alameda-Life. Don't forget, you can head to bayarearadio.org and cast your vote for the inaugural Bay Area Audiocaster of the Year Award. Find the Alameda Post on all the social media platforms, now including TikTok. You can subscribe to us on Apple News and sign up for our weekly news digest at alamedapost.com/email-digest. Get the Postcast wherever you get your podcast, or tell your smart device to play the Alameda Postcast podcast. I'm Scott Peeler, back next Friday with episode 204 of the Alameda Postcast.